After listening to a lot of people talk about stuff, you become really good at figuring out when someone is full of shit and when they're actually saying something that they understand. So, I've been seeing a lot of stuff posted online about the hard problem and trying to link this idea of consciousness with quantum mechanics and, being the observer at the center of everything. And I can tell you from my own life experience that understanding quantum mechanics is only gonna change a little bit. You know what I'm saying? People have operated under the paradigm that as soon as we can prove this, everything will fall into place. But the more I learn, the more I realize that's not how the universe works. There will not be a single realization that cascades everything into bliss or whatever these people think is going to happen. It's more like one understanding opens a door to something else in a different umbrella. So you can study quantum physics and you can try to find the fundamental root of everything, but if you don't apply what you learn to other relevant parts of the situation, it's going to just be a factoid. No one cares about the double slit experiment because it doesn't affect their life in any real way. Until you realize, now with quantum mechanics, it is kind of interesting because there is a direct line of evidence that suggests that you, as the observer, have a direct influence on the way reality unfolds just by observing it. And the thing is, there are other ways to come to this realization. And so that's what's important about quantum physics, but that doesn't mean you need to dive headfirst into memorizing fermions and bosons. What it means is you have to actually sit with the knowledge that you are intrinsically connected to the physical world. It may have seemed your whole life like there was space between you and the stuff around you, but there is no separation from the very earliest moments of the universe until the day you die. It was one, and now here you are. So, the hard problem of consciousness, is consciousness physical? Is it fundamental? And is it the root behind the physical universe? You know what I mean? Do particles emerge from consciousness? The problem is, no two people have the same idea of what consciousness is. They just say, first-person experience, awareness, the ability to describe what's right in front of me. And it's like, okay, well, we can call that consciousness, but what separates something that has the level of consciousness that a human being has from a rock, it's not the ability to describe things. It's not the fact that they are connected in their minds and their thoughts with the things outside of their minds and their thoughts, the things that have, physical properties. It's about internal experience at the level of human consciousness, because you can program an AI to describe a picture of something in a way that will trick a human being into thinking that it's not AI. But a computer will never see the color purple. You know what I mean? A computer will never know what cinnamon tastes like. So the internal experience is really what separates. But the problem with consciousness is that it's probably just a physical field, just like the electromagnetic field. And now what happens in physics is that, oscillations in these fields give rise to particles. And so the fields are fundamental. The fields exist regardless of anything. And if consciousness is this way, what it's doing is it's behaving with wave dynamics, it's behaving with spin, and it's behaving under behaviors that are creating things that function in a way that is similar to, for example, DNA. You know what I mean? It's one thing, but it has created a patterning that preserves this higher functioning. It's like when you make a clay statue, it becomes a statue and not just clay, but it's still made of clay. So this field of consciousness is creating these statues that are discernible from the fucking surrounding consciousness that it came from. Like little pockets of miniature versions of itself. And it's creating all sorts of geometric patterns that give rise to multiple dimensions. Like on a grid, X, Y, Z axis over time puts us in a 4-dimensional reality. And this can be described with a field behaving in such a way that it oscillates and creates constructive interference, and those interferences interact with each other, and then all sorts of things are possible with the mathematics that describe quantum fields. And so if consciousness is a field, it's no different than the electromagnetic field. It's not some esoteric thing. It's not, it doesn't mean that all this means is that we need to think more about our own consciousness, because in higher levels of consciousness, more processing happens. Better processing happens. And things like good and evil become super relevant. Things like morals and our own mistakes. When we're processing at a high level of consciousness for whatever reason, we introspect, we think deeply about stuff, and it actually makes a difference.